Today on What It's Like, the year is 1964, and this was Volkswagen's GT car 2+2, not a sports car. Let me introduce you to the Karman Ghia. But before getting into all of it, I'm Jay. Welcome to What It's Like, the automotive channel that digs lost and forgotten classic cars. We focus on the history, specs, design, and in many ways, this is like seeing these cars for the very first time. Post between 4 and 5 times a week, engine episodes on Wednesday or Thursday. If that sounds of interest, a channel that you will totally dig, subscribe and hit the bell icon next to it to never miss a video. 1964 Volkswagen model lineup. If I miss any, correct me in the comment section. Beetle, bus, Type 3 wagon, pickup, Karman Ghia Type 14, Karman Ghia Type 34, notchback. Volkswagen would offer the Karman Ghia. That's a bit of a trick question because Volkswagen would offer 3 flavors or 3 versions of the Karman Ghia over the course of its life. Type 14 was produced from 1955 through 1974, which 450,000 of those were made during that time frame. Type 34, aka Razor Edge European Ghia, was produced from 1961 or 62, bit conflicting information there, until 69. 42,498 of those were made. Type 145 TC, which never got exported from South America during its production cycle from 1972 to 1975, only 18,119 of those were made. The Karman Ghia was essentially a Volkswagen Beetle, floor pans, and drivetrain with a hand-built body built by the House of Karman. Styling was done by Ghia. Not one person is responsible for the Karman Ghia design, but it has a striking similarity to Virgil Exner's Chrysler D-Elegance and K310 concepts. The Volkswagen Type 14 was first shown at the Paris Auto Show October 1953 as a concept by Ghia. In August of 1955, the first Type 14 was built, with public reaction exceeding expectations. More than 10,000 were sold the very first year. 1955 through 1960, Karman Ghias are called lowlights because the headlights sit lower. Grills are also smaller as well as taillights. 1957 was the first year for the Karman Ghia convertible. Karman Ghia was marketed as a 2+2 instead of a sports car because it used the same powertrain as the Volkswagen Beetle, rated at 40 horsepower in 1964, which isn't a whole lot of horsepower if you really think about it. Let's talk specs. 163 inches long, 64.4 inches wide, 52.4 inches tall. It rides a wheelbase of 94.5 inches. It weighs 1,740 pounds. Price, $2,300, which is equivalent to you spending $22,758.57 in the year 2024. Total 1964 Volkswagen production was 1,034,797 units. Moving on to engine, only one engine on offer, 1192cc, often referred to as 1200cc, Boxster 4, 1.2 liters. It's good for 40 horsepower at 3,900 RPM, 64 pound-feet, or 87 newton meters at 2,400 RPM, with a bore of 3 inches and a stroke of 2.5 inches. Compression is 7:1, 4 main bearings. This engine was fed by a single Solex carburetor. 0 to 60, 24.73 seconds. It's important to note that these numbers can change based on elevation of sea level, depending on whether you're going 0 to 60 up the side of a mountain or down Everest. If you're shooting down Everest, you'll probably go faster than these numbers. Average fuel economy is anywhere around 25 to 32 miles to the gallon. Theoretical top speed of 80 miles per hour.
Will John ever get a chance to be alone with Evelyn? Will Evelyn ever find out if she really loves John? Will Evelyn's mother ever find out three's a crowd? The Volkswagen people give them a chance to find the answers.
Would you like to go for a ride?
I'll get my hat.
That chance is the Karman Ghia. It has an economical, dependable Volkswagen engine and a racy, romantic, hand-finished body. But best of all, Instead of having seats for 4, the Karman Ghia only has seats for 2. Only 2.
This 1964 Volkswagen Karman Ghia is currently for sale at Classic Auto Mall, Morgantown, Pennsylvania, with over 1,000 cars for sale when recording this episode. And get this, anybody can peruse their inventory for hours of operation, directions, and to see more pictures as well as pricing for this very car. Be sure to click the link below after this show.
Let's talk styling.
Look at how petite these bezels are. I mean, it is probably an inch around. We've just been looking at a bunch of cars today that have big, huge headlight bezels. Turn signals almost reminiscent Dagmars. That protrudes out quite a ways. Look at the bumpers with the overrider bars and bumperettes. Notice this car has grills despite the engine being in the trunk. When checking out a Karman Ghia, you always want to make sure that this line looks pretty near perfect. If it does look perfect, then you know that it hasn't been hit in the front. Look at this line that goes up to the windshield. This hood is very smooth, aside from the center line that goes to the Volkswagen badge. This car does have a windshield washer squirter. It's got just petite chrome trim around the window. Wipers are also on the small side. Look at how smooth this is. The fenders are rolled underneath. This car is riding on 15-inch wheels. Got a Karman badge right here in this indentation with these 2 bright bars that run. It's not really the rocker, it's on top of the rocker. It's kind of in between the rocker and the belt line. Also notice this crease that comes off the top of the fender protrudes the most about right here, and then it goes to right there before tapering back into the body. Also, there's a line here, and then it protrudes more outward before going into the fender design. This car does have drip rails which start down here below the windshield, and they run the length of the cabin. Bright work is very minimal on this car. You have just some bright work here, bright piece here, around the windows, front and rear windshields. Notice this car does not have a mirror on the passenger side. I believe it was an option. Just look at this line. The rear wheel well is also rolled. Notice these have beauty rings, hubcaps. Look at this rear bumper. Notice it wraps almost, it's within an inch of the rear wheel well. This car does have tiny fins, if that's what you want to call it. Notice the teardrop taillights. Overrider bumperettes. Handle to lift the trunk, as well as light for license plate light.
is a mirror, and look at how it's mounted as well as how it is designed. Antenna. This door doesn't have a lot of heft to it, but it feels very quality. It doesn't feel chintzy. Feels like a vinyl material. Armrest as well as door handle to pull the door shut. Window crank for the big window. Operates like this. Notice it's just a piece of curved glass. It's not framed out or anything. Door handle to get out as well as lock and unlock the door. Coming down inside the pedal box down here, notice how everything is kind of sort of pushed towards the center. Clutch, brake, gas pedal, those pedals are tiny. This one's got shag carpet in it. I don't know if that was a thing. My Karman Ghia did not have the shag carpet. Take a look at this interior. Here's what over the hood looks like. Here's what first person over the hood looks like.
On to the button switches and knobs, starting on the left and moving right. Key, speedometer with odometer. Notice that 80 miles an hour and 90 miles an hour are flipped so you can see them. Amp meter and oil pressure, idiot lights inside this gauge. Amp meter light will come on if the car throws a belt. Gasoline gauge, clock, wipers, headlights, radio.
Up above, there are sun visors. They look like that. There is a rear view mirror there in the center, as well as another sun visor off to the right. Underneath, there's adequate room to put my hand in between my lap and the steering wheel. The only reason I show that is because if you don't fit in the car, it's not fun to be or drive the car. Check out the pedal situation. I owned one of these at one point. I owned a 73. I don't remember the pedals being towards the center. It would be very interesting to drive this because the pedals are really small. I don't remember that in mine. There's an ashtray. On to the glove box test. Here's our test subject. Here is my hand for reference. Here is the glove box in question. I don't think it's gonna fit. Nope, it does not fit. The big camera doesn't fit, but this GoPro will fit inside here. No problem at all. Gear selector, emergency brake and or handbrake. And then there were two controls with mine that open up baffles in the engine to allow the heat to blow through. Because the heat was supplied from the fan from the engine. But as you can see, there is a back seat. I'm not going to get back there because I can't get the seat to fold forward, but I wanted to show you this. These rear windows are vent windows. Coming to under the hood section. I already released it from the inside. There's a secondary catch that looks like this gigantic hook to fish it up through this hole. But this is what your trunk situation looks like. You got your gas tank up here. So if you want to put gas in the car, you just put it in. Coming to the under the trunk section. And there it is. Volkswagen air-cooled engine. This one doesn't have the pipes hooked up. So that's interesting. Got a generator up on top. Carburetor. It's missing an air cleaner. Notice it's very basic. There's only one accessory. There's no power steering. This is the distributor. Coil's just mounted to the fan. This big huge thing back here is a fan. because it's air cooled. This one's 12 volt.
On the positive side, these are cute little cars. They get decent gas mileage on the highway, 32 miles to the gallon, perhaps more. It depends on a lot of factors like where you are in the world. Decent trunk space, behind the seat storage, engine parts in great supply. Great entry-level classic car to get into the hobby with a few caveats. Against it, 0 to 60 is like day and a half, but when you're there, it's a great place to be. And I know not everything is about speed and going fast, but just be warned, this car is not quick or fast. It's still faster than a horse. Quicker, that's something totally different. Back seat is pretty much just for pets, extra storage, and maybe small kids. The biggest thing to know about looking at one of these cars is it's constructed as one piece. The only parts that come off of these cars are the doors, hood, and trunk. That's it. Everything else is welded together as one piece, and bodywork is expensive. So just look for a clean example, because these are extremely rust prone. All right, now it's time for Would You Rather. 2 scenarios today. In the first scenario, would you rather have a 1964 MGB or 1964 Volkswagen Type 14, aka Karman Ghia, or 1964 Triumph TR4. I'm going to leave this here for a minute. If you need more time, feel free, pause the video. Moving to the second scenario, all Karman Ghias. 1964 Type 34 Karman Ghia Razor Edge, or 1964 Type 14 Karman Ghia, or 1972 Type 145TC Karman Ghia. I'm going to leave this here for a minute. If you need more time, feel free, pause the video. Now it's time for Name That Tune. First person to get both the name of the band and the song title correctly in the comment section will have their comment pinned to the top of it. Thank you all so much for coming out and watching this. If you'd like to get in touch with me, maybe you have a car in your personal collection that you would love to see reviewed on this channel, reach out to me, send me an email. It will be linked in the description below. Just know I appreciate everything that you guys bring in the comment section. And until next time, toodaloo! So I wanted to share this story. It has nothing to do with cars. It has something to do with my family. So my grandpa was my best friend. He died once when I was about 5 years old. He died for 16 minutes and he came back. I told that whole story when it was one of the live streams. I can link it in the description below. I'm not going to go into it here. But he came from a family of 13. And his sister had Alzheimer's really bad. I mean, she was up there. She was in her 80s, almost 90. And she didn't even know who she was or what was going on. Alzheimer's is a terrible, terrible disease. And I hope nobody has any relatives or anything that has that. It runs in my family. It's a terrible disease. But anyway, her son is named Eddie, and he had a dream where my grandpa was walking through the field and said that I'm coming for Hazel. Eddie never said anything about this dream to Hazel. Eddie took care of his mom. She wasn't in a home or anything like that. So after tucking Hazel into bed, Eddie went to go turn off the lights, and Hazel said, "Don't turn off the light. I want to see him when he comes for me." She passed away that night. The craziest thing of all is Eddie had that dream one night before she passed away. It was just a cool story that I really wanted to share with you guys.